Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Now this one is gonna be about my New Year's resolutions, which obviously I'm not gonna stick to, because we never do. It's kind of funny because I was watching a video I did this time last year. I was tagged by Ty's Wayne, and I just said the usual nonsense about healthy eating, which I just didn't do. Well, in fact I've got a bit better, but I started the year pathetically. And also, my biggest gaming kind of resolution I said I was going to adopt would be the quality over quantity. And again, I failed spectacularly on that one. So, but I'm really going to try and do that this year. And, the whole quality over quantity is kind of important. Because in the past, I highlighted an example last year. So why I didn't really take heed of that, I don't know. But the example that I gave last year, I'll use again. But I've done it so many times this year, I could give many examples. But basically, the amount of times where I've bought, say, I've gone on eBay and I've looked at like 10 games in a bundle. Someone's selling 10 games and they only want like kind of $10, $12, maybe 15 or whatever it might be. And I'll look at it and I'll think, well, 10 games, $15, $20, whatever it might be. Bargain. And I don't really think in my head, well, how good are the games? I kind of just look at the quantity. And that's a mistake because, for the price of, even if it's just $15 or $20, which isn't a lot of money, I could get, rather than, say, a dozen games which are awful, I could get maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 games that I really want for that same price. So it's all about quality over quantity, and I'm really going to try and knuckle hard, or knuckle down, and try and do that, because I think that's important. So I've just made a little note in the corner of the screen, which I know you can't see, but I'm just going to read that and give a read back to you of what I'm going to try and go for this year. So the first thing I've mentioned on the list is PS1. Now, as some of you may be aware, I have started to pick up quite a few retro PS1 titles over the past 4 or 5 weeks, but I'm being very particular about the ones which I'm getting. They're all ones which I liked back in the day, and I know that I like them now. So that's things like, just to give a few examples off the top of my head, I picked up Driver, Project Overkill, Olympic Soccer, which I should have a video up maybe today, maybe tomorrow. What else have I got? I think there's a Street Fighter game in there as well. There's a few others, I can't remember. But I'm basically picking out PS1 games that I really liked back in the day, and I know I'm going to like them now. So I'm definitely going to continue that from now on. It's the PS1, I'm kind of into that again. Next one I put on the list is Japanese Sega Dreamcast. Now, anyone who watched my first video, complete with comedy beard, so you've got to watch it for that reason alone, will remember that I had just the one, but I had one Sega Japanese Dreamcast. Sega Japanese Dreamcast? Yeah, that's right. Or Japanese Sega Dreamcast, whichever way you want to look at it. That was ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, I only had one this time last year, and I said, I really want to try and crack on with a full collection, or maybe not a full collection, but start collecting Dreamcast Japanese games. Dreamcast games, whatever. But I didn't do it until December, when I picked up, I think, 4, 5 or 6 games. But until then, the whole Japanese thing I completely forgot about. But I've been watching a few videos lately by a lot of people, including like G Minty Fresh, who's kind of heavily into his kind of import games. And it's kind of spurred me on to, get cracking with my own Dreamcast games, which I promised that I would do last year, and obviously never got around to doing it. Now, I used to have a Japanese Dreamcast back in the day, as I probably said a million times. I got it pretty much when it came out, really. And I was heavily into it, but, as ever, I kind of lose interest in something and I start collecting for something else. So it's going to be really nice to get back into the Dreamcast. I'm really looking forward to doing it. I'm not going to say I'm going to go for a full collection or I'm going to get hundreds of games every week. Clearly I won't. But just picking them up occasionally, and before, the end of the year, or this time next year, it'll be nice to look back, and I'm pretty certain I'll have a pretty decent collection. So that's that. Now, PAL Sega Saturn is the next one I've put on my list. Now, that might take some people by surprise, but the Saturn is a console that I've always been kind of relatively passionate about. I prefer the PS1. My cards are on the table there. The PS1 beats it hands down. Hands down. Every day of the week. But I've always felt sorry for the Saturn, and that goes back to my days of working in an electronics boutique in 97 and 98, and even though the PS1 was really big there, the N64 had just kind of come out, and the Saturn was still doing the rounds, obviously, It hadn't been out long. But people just were not buying Saturn games. And I used to feel really sorry for it. You know, working there in the store, and people would occasionally come in and they'd get maybe like a Panzer Dragoon, or an Enemy Zero, or Sonic R, and very occasionally maybe like a Virtua Fighter, or whatever it was that else was doing the rounds. But generally people just wouldn't touch the Saturn games. And whereas on the back wall, the whole shelf, like literally all across the back wall, was full of PS1, and everyone was buying them. PC games were popular. You know, I guess very rare, even rarer than Saturn. People were still coming and picking up the odd Amiga game, but really it was the PS1 which was really dominant. And so I felt sorry for the Saturn, so I bought one around about that time, maybe just before actually. And as a result, I got all my games really cheap, which was fantastic because I did get staff discount, but also because we kept marking them down all the time. So it was great, so I was getting them really cheap. Amazing. So I'd like to get that Saturn collection going again. And I probably about maybe 70, 75 Saturn games just before I came to the States. But as I've always said, and will always say in the future, I had to get rid of that collection because, you know, there's no way I was going to bring it all with me. Too much money, shipping costs, and it was never going to happen. So I'm going to start doing that again. Now, I've only got 2 PAL Saturn games so far in the collection, which you may remember that I picked up maybe a couple of months ago, and I picked them up in America, which surprised me, because I didn't expect to see many PAL games kind of doing the rounds. But I do get the feeling the majority of my Saturn games I'm going to have to import, obviously from the UK or Europe. So, yeah, I'm kind of excited about doing that. I'm not going to say I'm going for a full collection. Well, I kind of am, but certainly not by the end of the year. But I'd like to have a good 15, 20, 25, maybe more titles by the end of the year, which isn't a lot. So I think I can do that. So I'm looking forward to cracking on with the Saturn PAL collection. I will also pick up the occasional Saturn, or the Japanese Saturn game, the occasional one. But I'm not too bothered about that. When it comes to imports, I'm more prioritising the Dreamcast. But things can change, of course, and I may get more Japanese Saturn games than I intend right now. Now, speaking of imports, anybody, again, who may remember some of my early videos will recall that I was heavily into, for a short period of time, heavily into the Japanese N64. And I've still got them. You can probably just see them there in the corner, just in that shelf, and they go all the way up. I've got about 35 altogether, all boxed, and they're all in pretty good condition. And I did say a while back that, well, I don't actually think I said that I was going to stop, but I may have done, because I say millions of things. I think I said it was kind of on the back burner. And it still is on the back burner, but as I've always said about the Japanese N64, I will continue to pick up games if the price is right. But it's finding them at the right price, because going on eBay, what I usually find is that Japanese N64 games don't usually start at a normal listing fee. They will start, or they will just have a buy it now, with something ludicrous like $50. But what they will have, the sellers, they'll put like a make a best offer on. But that completely, it was a waste of time, because there'll be some games which are worth like $5 or $10. They're asking buy it now for $60 or make a best offer. Well, I can't go in there and make a best offer of like $8, because they're never going to do it. And invariably what they do is they counteract you or counter offer you with like 42, with the kind of the phrase like, oh, well, you know, I did want 60, I've kind of come down to 42. And it's like, no, you're missing the point. You can't do that. They're worth like $5. So I find it really difficult to pick up N64 games at a sensible price. But if and when I do see them, I will continue to pick them up. But I'm not paying over the odds just so someone else can watch it. And that's ridiculous. I've got to want to do it myself, and I've got to be buying them at a right price. But I will continue to pick them up if the price is right, like I say. So that's that. Now, also let me just touch on the Amiga and the Atari ST. I am sounding like a stuck record here, it's kind of embarrassing, but again, anyone who has watched my previous videos, particularly at the start, will remember that I very briefly touched upon the fact that I have a huge Amiga collection, or huge as far as I'm concerned. I must have well over 100 boxed games, and there's a few Atari ST games in that bulk lot as well. But they're all in the UK, and I do not want to get them sent here because it's going to cost a fortune, shipping costs, and I don't even want to guess at how many hundreds upon hundreds of dollars. So what I'm thinking of doing with that, and in fact what I have been doing, I haven't featured them on pickups videos because I haven't received them in the States, but what I have been doing relatively regularly is going on like eBay UK and putting in a few sneaky bids for some Amiga and ST games, and I've won a fair few. But what I've been doing is getting them sent to my parents in the UK, obviously just to save on shipping costs. So my thinking behind the Amiga and ST thing is that I will resume that collection in a big way, but I may have to do that when, or if and when, we move back to the UK, and that could be whenever. I mean, I don't intend to do it anytime soon. It might be next year, it might be 5 years, it might be 10, 20 years, I don't know. But whenever we do, and I kind of get the feeling I might one day, but again, opinions might change. But if and when we move back to the UK, I will do my Amiga and ST stuff then. Whether YouTube is still doing the rounds then or not, I'm not sure. But anyway, so that's that. And other things I've written on the list, very minor stuff which I'm not that bothered about. Nintendo Wii and DS. I'll pick up the occasional game here and there, but I'm absolutely not treating them with any kind of priority at all. And last but not least, I put Atari Jaguar on there. Oh, not last but not least, there's another one of this actually. Atari Jaguar, I'm going to continue to pick up some of them because I think there's only about 70 games released, and that'll be an interesting collection to crack on with. And actually, I was speaking with a good friend of mine, Pete Snestastic, who I'm sure you're all aware of. He's got a fantastic channel and he's a really good guy. And we were talking quite recently about maybe doing some kind of friendly race of, like, say, first one to 50 of Atari Jaguar games, and it will be stretched out across the year. So it's not as if, you know, we've got to like do it all within like a few weeks or something. And I think 50 is a good figure because if and when we get to 50, there's not going to be that, well, there'll only be about 20 left to get. Admittedly, some of the hardest ones, but the overwhelming majority of the collection we'll probably have, which will be nice. And then multi-region as well, I believe. So if there's some games that I have which he doesn't, we can maybe trade and help each other out. And I dare say if there's anyone else watching this who maybe likes the idea of doing an Atari Jaguar collection, then feel free to join in with the race. It's only like, oh, what's that? It's like kind of one finger on that side. Yeah, anyway. So that will be interesting doing that. So, yeah, that completely threw me, that unnecessary use of big fingers. So that's about it. Oh, no, sorry. Xbox 360 and PS3, as I just, again, read my list down there. Now, I've got to be honest, and I will hold my hands up, even though I'm keeping them down. I completely went over the top with my 360 collection this year. Really stupidly bought a lot in a short space of time. In 9 months, actually, to be matter of fact, in 9 months I picked up like 145 games, I think it was, which is obscene. And they're all behind me then, there's a few more elsewhere, and some of them are awful and I'm never going to play them. But you know what it's like when you start collecting, you get involved, you get used to like a routine, and you pick up one and the next day you pick up another. And it was kind of good, like, ticking them off the list as I was getting more and more and more. But then I kind of looked at it just a few weeks before Christmas and I thought, this is crazy. It's a crazy situation, I've got too many. And I never play them. In fact, I'm not really on the 360 as much as I used to be. I don't know why, I just kind of lost a little bit of interest in it. But obviously I got Connect at Christmas. So I've been playing that a bit, that's kind of fun. And I will get back into the 360, but I'm definitely going to concentrate more on picking up, like I say, some of my retro titles. But I'm not going to stop ever, really, with current-gen gaming, because I think it would drive me insane. I've got to have current-gen gaming, because, you know, I've got to keep up with the Joneses, you know, with all the new technology and stuff. I have to do it. So I'm definitely going to keep my modern stuff, but I'm also, without question, going to be focusing a lot more this year than the last 10 years combined on getting retro stuff. Whether it's retro stuff you'll like or not, I don't know, but it's retro stuff I like. So I think as a result of me liking it, you might like it, because, you know, I've got good taste in games, I think. So, yeah, I think you'll be surprised at some of the stuff I pick up, or not, as the case may be. Because, let's face it, I'll probably be doing this video next year, looking back going, well, once again, didn't do the healthy eating. But I'm going to try, I'm really going to try. And sorry for the light shining down here as well. It's the blinds coming down. It's not like some new pattern, although it looks pretty good. No, it looks stupid. But it's a cold day here, but it's really, really sunny. So anyway, I think that's all I wanted to say, but, you know, obviously I probably would have left some things out. I want to thank everyone for all my new subs lately. I've had quite a few come through, so thanks for that. Much appreciated. I'm always trying to check out other people's channels. You know, sincere apologies if I never really get round to leaving many comments. I do watch a lot of videos and sometimes don't always comment. So I'm going to try and, switch that around and, actually leave comments, or more often, more frequently anyway. But usually I'll just watch a video and that's it, and I don't usually comment. But I'm going to try and comment, like I say. So I think that's about it, really. I hope everyone's had a fantastic New Year. It still is the New Year, I guess. We're only on, 3rd, 4th of January. So if anyone else wants to do a New Year's resolutions tag that they haven't got around to doing, then please feel free to doing it, because, there's, like I say, it's still early January. It's still time to feel as if you can change. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm sure there's something else I was going to say. Hi guys, back again. I told you I'd forget something, and I knew I did. There's a few things I forgot, actually. I'll only touch upon them pretty briefly, but the first thing I want to do is to thank the subs who have been there for a long, long time. I know I said thank you to all the recent subs, and of course that means a lot when people sub to your channel. You're obviously doing something right for someone to want to click on that little yellow button, so that means a lot. So thanks again to them people, but also thanks to the people who have been there, not necessarily from the start, although there have been a few, but people who have been there for a long, long time. Watching my videos, regularly commenting, and yeah, I've met some really cool people from all around the world, not just the UK, not just the States, all around the world, and it's just nice to talk to like-minded people about games, or just quite frankly about anything. Some of the things I go on talk about, we just go on to all sorts of stuff with people, and it's great. So yeah, I've met some really good people, and obviously that's going to continue, so that's fantastic. PS3, I touched upon the 360 and how I'm going to cut back on that collection. Not stop it, I am going to continue to pick games up for it, but not at the rate that I have been this year, or last year, because that was just kind of obscene. Now the PS3 I generally being the word, generally use for exclusives. There are a few exceptions, but I usually just buy exclusives, and I may well change that stance, that policy, and I may buy more cross-platform games on the PS3, but I may not. I'm not quite sure where I stand on that at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the PS3, and I feel it's underused, and I just think it's a really good piece of kit. But we'll see. I'm not quite sure on that. I might just continue to get exclusives. But either way. And the last one, really, that I can think of for now, anyway, and this is kind of a big one, and it's not to buy release day games, or at least if I can help it, because I look back at the past year and I have bought games on their release date, like Alan Wake. Well, I didn't get these two on their release date, but I got them not long after, I guess. Uncharted 2 and Heavy Rain, and there's several other examples I can give if I could remember them. And I bought them on the release date or thereabouts for full price and not played them. In fact, Alan Wake, Heavy Rain, Uncharted 2, the three examples I used, I have still not played any of them, which I know is criminal because there's 3 really good games there, 3 gems. But yeah, and it's ridiculous. So, and I'm paying like kind of 50, 60 bucks for these bad boys, and then now they're kind of worth about 20 each, maybe. Probably get them for 20, maybe even less. So all that money I could have saved. So I'm really gonna knuckle down and stop buying games on their release date. It's just not worth it, because invariably within a week or two they come down by $10 anyway, and then within 2 weeks an extra $5 off that. So if you just wait a couple of months, you almost get them for half price. Now, unless it's something really spectacular, which I know I'm gonna want desperately as soon as it comes out, whether it's because all my friends have got it, or whether because I really want it, or whether the online play is fantastic. There are going to be some exceptions where I will buy release day games, but generally I'm absolutely going to stop doing it on a regular basis. All that pre-ordering nonsense, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of money, and I kind of urge everyone else to really try and do that as well. And all that money that you can save, you can put into, towards other stuff in life, or if you want to keep it game related, then you can pick up some other games, whether they're current gen or whether they're retro, and you can do it that way. But maybe you might not want to, maybe you don't care, I don't know, but I am definitely going to stop buying release day games unless it's a really good one that I want. There's obviously got to be an exception. So anyway, guys, I really think that's it for now, for this video. That's my New Year's video. Like I said, if anyone else wants to make one, it's still January, it's still early January, so get one out of the way and you'll feel a lot better. It's like a cleansing. So yeah, Happy New Year to everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll be back shortly with another video. See you later.